So if we think about impact, you just talked about that. What, how can we make the greatest positive impact this season on society? Like, what is that big view you have?
Well, you know, the primary thing I'm focusing now on for me is after you've worked all of your life, you've raised all of your children, you've done all of these things for others. In this next phase, how do we prepare for it? How do we move into it? How do we mentor others? Because we talk a lot now about mentoring and mentorship, but when I look around, there are not really that many women who I can say have worked 35 years and retired and had a plan for what they are going to do.
Well, I mean, you're the first in so many ways, but we're the first generation of us. There's so few so few Barbara Jordans to look at who are ahead of us that we can use as role models. So we're paving the way for what this new stage in life looks like. And one of the things that we know is during adolescence, 45 to 65, there's a life stage shift, and having an impact and doing it with other women is actually makes us happier.
It
Yeah.
really does. And it's been inspirational to be around the How Women Lead and How Women Invest women, because we're all doing just such different things, but we're doing it in ways that mean something to each of us.
Yeah.
And then when you get together collectively, you're able to see how you can impact each other, and how just having that support network is amazing, especially at this time, right?
Oh, yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah. Well, so it sounds like you have designs on having an impact on your peers, your colleagues, the women who are in this transition. You want them to see, like, how do you reset who you are? Like, I remember when I left my big CEO role and I was like, I'm never running anything again. But boy, I talked to my executive coach for 18 months about, like, how do I introduce myself at a meeting or at a party? Like, I used to be the CEO of, and now what do I say? I'm hanging out. I'm consulting a little, but not trying too hard.
that's exactly right.
Right.
So yeah, so I did a number of things and I'm still trying to figure out where I'm going to land, right? Because I think it's going to evolve in a way that every month or two, there's going to be a new opportunity. I'll assess it and see whether I'm interested or not. But the preparation was really, I think, the primary thing that I would want to start talking to people about. And I
And
haven't
you had
figured
10
out.
years, right? You had a 10-year roadmap to
Yeah,
get
I had a 10-year. And the first thing was just trying to decide what kinds of things in general would I be interested in. I've always had an affinity for nonprofit organizations, which ended up being a lot of who my client base ended up being, because it was just a passion of mine and something I love. And so one of the things I did was I went to Northwestern and took a certificate course in nonprofit management, so that I learned all the aspects of it,
Oh, wonderful.
not knowing whether I would need it or not, or whether I would use it or not, but knowing that if I wanted to help nonprofits, I needed to know more about them and know what makes them tick and how they run to be helpful. So I did that years ago, just put that on the shelf. And then I started thinking about, well, what would a business look like for me? What kind of things would I want to do? And I sort of put that on the shelf. And as I got closer and closer to the retirement, I realized that now I had to shed some things, right? There's some things that you have to let go of. It may be people, right? Sometimes you have to get rid of the people that are not
Adding value.
adding value anymore. I like the way you did that. Sometimes it's organizations and other things. So I started shedding things. I then started working on myself, whether it was exercise, yoga, just being more introspective about who I am now, not who I was when I had my first kid 35 years ago, or those kinds of things. And then just started putting the pieces together to be satisfied and comfortable with the fact that things were going to change, right? And so I spent those years doing that, so that as it got to year -1.
Countdown, yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
when it got to countdown, I felt like I was prepared. I was ready. I didn't know what was gonna happen, but I was not afraid of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, as I'm talking to women more and more, I'm hearing the fear of, "But what am I going to
Yeah.
do?" And,
Yeah.
like, "How am I gonna be valued? And my kids are gone, and my work is gone. What does it look like?" So, I haven't figured out how it will end, but I do know I wanna help in that space because we
Well, it'll probably
cannot
evolve.
operate on fear. Yeah,
Yeah, and it'll probably evolve. Boy, is that such wise counsel? I mean, and I love the fact that you were like, I'm taking this seriously. I'm going to go take a course on this to figure out if it's right for me. There's no failure in saying, and I decided that's not what I want to do. Like if that ends up being the case, right? But really giving yourself permission to play and then release. It sounds to me like was a part of your story.
right. I
And
mean,
it's
and
cool. Yeah.
yeah, and even that the nonprofit certificate I got, I didn't know it at the time, but in the past couple of months, there's been an opportunity. University of Chicago has an accelerator program, and what do? They support nonprofits on the South Side. And what do? They engage consultants to team up with nonprofits. They also know I love the arts, the music, dance, arts, theater. And so what they've done is now I'm consulting with 2 nonprofits, one a theater company and one a ballet company, I mean, or a dance company. And so I didn't know it at the time, but a lot of the skills I learned then I'm using now to help other nonprofits in my local area. So I couldn't have really dialed it up any better, but in all of this, you have to follow your heart, but you've got to sort of know who you are and then follow it. And so
Are you giving yourself permission to sort of just like, I don't know, like you said that you'll reflect with some regularity, but that permission to sort of say, let me look back in the last quarter. Am I still experiencing joy? Like, what are those questions you ask yourself? Am I energized? Am I got joy? It's bring me joy.
I'm not asking it that way. I'm asking it now, am I doing too much?
Ah, got it. Of course.
Now, because that same personality that makes you stick with stuff and go do stuff,
I
in retirement, you
have that
still
sickness myself, dear.
yeah, so that's still I didn't get rid of that personality trait, right? That it has
Uh,
me doing stuff.
yeah.
So I sit back and I'm trying to figure out, am I doing too much? It's because I've done the work to figure out what I like to do and not like to do. It's really easy for me to cut the things that aren't bringing me joy really early. It used to take me forever. Let me try it again. Let me stay in there. Let me hang in there.
Yeah.
The stuff that doesn't bring me joy goes really quickly now.
Okay, I think there's a lot. I mean, you can't let something go the minute you have a bump. And yet, so is there is it just experience? Is it just wisdom and you just being like, listen, I gave what I could give and now I'm gonna move on? Is that
That's
that's
it a lot of times. For me, it's also going back though, and I've been asked to do things even in the past year since I've been retired that I've agreed to do. And almost the minute I agree to do it, I'm like, I really don't want to do this.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Why did I agree to it?
Yeah.
And in the past, I would have said, well, I agreed to it and I'm gonna just go on and do it for a year or two. And now I'm like, you know what? With a month in, I was like, I'm overextended. So sorry. I didn't realize. And then
Oops.
I find a graceful way to say, I really don't want to do this.
Um,
So
okay, so there's a lot of words of wisdom. Plan ahead, be ready to shed and let go of things that aren't serving you, and do that regularly and reflect on whether or not, at least for you, like, am I doing too much? And then giving yourself permission. It's like, this is your time.